Are these up here for a reason? Somebody's crying later. Just run up here. It'll be real awkward. Everyone look. I got to check what David did to my notes, because if you guys know David, he's kind of schemy. Well, I brought an extra copy just for this reason, so don't worry. All right, guys, I want to start off with making a lot of you guys in this room feel awkward, which I know everyone loves coming to things like this and feeling awkward and feeling called out. But what we're going to do is I'm going to name off a couple different things, and if it applies to you, you're going to have to stand up. And if it applies to you and I see you sitting, I am going to make it so much more embarrassing from you from stage if I know you're lying. Now, if you don't know me, go ahead, take advantage of that, but we'll get there one day. So the very first thing that I want to start off with is, do you have an iPhone 15? No, just an iPhone 15. Brooke, stand up. You have one. All right. If you know somebody next to you that has one and they're not standing, raise your hand for me so I can bully them. Shh. I got one person to stand up because of it. All right, take a seat. All right, the next one I want to ask is, are you in your career? Will was hyped about that one. All right. Grab a seat. The next one that I want to ask, and like any degree applies, have you graduated college? All right. Okay, go ahead, take a seat again. The next one I want to ask is, do you own a car newer than 2015? All right. Okay, go ahead, take a seat again. The next one I got for you guys is, are you dating, engaged, or married? If you're single, look around real quick. This is for you guys. Pause. We're going to carry this out a little longer. Open your notes app. All right, grab a seat. And two more. The next one I want to ask is, do you have over 1,000 followers on social media, Instagram, Facebook if you're an old fogey? Chris, you two are the only ones. All right. Oh, you got to stand up. There we go. All right, grab a seat. The very last one I have is, do you own a home? Not necessarily like a single family home. Matt Graham recently is the owner of a home now. All right, go ahead, take a seat. Guys, the reason that I had however many of you just stood up throughout those things do that is because there's kind of two responses that I think we have if you are one of the people that was sitting during that time. And one of the sides of it is the response can be, that's sick. Will is 27. Katie say yes. Will's 27, owns a home. That's awesome. And the other side can be, Will's 27, I'm 25, why don't I own a home yet? Why is he so special? What makes him deserve to own a home when I'm renting out a little studio or whatever you're doing right now? What makes him deserve that over me? And this comes out of jealousy and envy. And that's what we're going to spend the rest of this night talking about. We're going to be talking about how jealousy and envy are the most destructive things within a community, especially a community of Christians. That when jealousy and envy are knocking at the door, when they're creeping into things, they just crush everything. They kill every relationship. They destroy ministry. They destroy just everything that is possibly happening gets ruined when jealousy and envy are happening, are a characteristic, or an attitude that you can have. And I want you guys to think about, I named off some a little bit more surface level things. Think about those things. Think about other things. It could be something I didn't name. I don't know what. Somebody's got cooler shoes than you. I'm definitely not that person. I couldn't tell you the brand of my shoes that I'm wearing right now. Somebody tell me later. Vlad's got my back. But think about, what are the things for you that stir up that envy, that stir up that jealousy. Think about the things that raise that out of you. And what I want to do is I want to jump to a biblical story of this. So if you guys have your Bibles on you, or your app, whatever, open up to Genesis 30. It's about 30 pages into your Bible, give or take. And what we're going to do is we're going to be talking about Jacob, Leah, and Rachel. So Jacob, if you guys don't know, Jacob is the grandson of Abraham. So I can't remember his parents' names right now. It's Rebecca and Isaac, thank you. Jacob is their grandson. Jacob is trying to find a wife, and he goes off to a foreign land where he has connections. He doesn't just go blind. And he ends up meeting Rachel. Now, Rachel is the daughter of his uncle. Sorry, guys, I wasn't planning to tell all this, but I'm rambling now. Rachel was the daughter of his uncle, and she has a sister named Leah. And long story short, what happens is he wants to marry Rachel, so he begins to work and basically be a slave, a servant, whatever you want to say, for 7 years to gain the marriage, or whatever you'd say, of Rachel. And he ends up getting tricked. He ends up being deceived. He ends up marrying Leah, which I don't know how that happens, but it happened. And then he works even longer to still be able to marry Rachel, and he ends up marrying Leah and Rachel, and they're sisters. And so they end up in Genesis 30 is where we're going to pick up this story. Right at verse 1, it starts off with, now when Rachel saw that she, and they've been married for a little while now, when Rachel saw that she bore Jacob no children, she became jealous of her sister, and she said to Jacob, "Give me children or else I die." And the story goes on where Rachel doesn't have children, or isn't able to have children, and she gives her maid to Jacob to have children in her place. And then Leah becomes barren and does the exact same thing. She gives her maid to Jacob. And then when we pick up in verse 14, it says, "Now in the days of wheat harvest, Reuben went and found mandrakes in the field and brought them to his mother Leah. Then Rachel said to Leah, 'Please give me some of your son's mandrakes.' But Leah said to Rachel, 'Is it a small matter for you to take my husband? And you would take my son's mandrakes also.' So Rachel said, 'Therefore he may lie with you tonight,'" referring to Jacob, "'in return for your son's mandrakes.'" Verse 17 we pick up and it says, "God gave heed to Leah, and she conceived and bore Jacob a fifth son." And then verse 19 it just says, "Leah conceived again and bore a sixth son to Jacob." So from the beginning of this story, there's this weird dynamic of competition between these two sisters for Jacob's attention. And already from the get-go, Leah knows she's not really the one that he wanted to marry. That she has to know that it was a trick and a game for them to get married. And Rachel's the one that Jacob wanted to be with. But then Rachel can't have children, so then she feels like she's the one that Jacob doesn't want. And Leah's getting all these blessings from the Lord and having 5 children at this point, 5 sons specifically. And something I want to talk about, because I overlooked this every time until the last week that I read this verse. Who knows what a mandrake is? Very few of you guys. You're about to know what it is. Put that picture up for me, Stephen. You just looked it up? I did the same thing. So that right there is a cartoon of a mandrake. Which, how many of you guys have seen Harry Potter? You guys know when they pull the things out and they scream and the one guy just passes out, falls over? Those are they call them mandrakes. So if you look up mandrakes, you're going to see a picture of a little screaming devil plant thing. So a mandrake is just this random root plant. I don't really know if you can eat it or what. But at the time, and this is what makes it important, it was known to be this herb that you could turn into this stew or something, and it would help with infertility and push you to have children, however you say that right. And so there's this aspect where Leah's son, and Leah is the one that's had all these children, goes out and finds these things, gives them to her mother, and then they exchange basically time with Jacob for what Rachel believes is going to be something that gives her a son one day. And it adds this extra layer, I think, of Rachel gave up something, and Leah had a son, and she has this, magical root thing that she turned into an herb that she believes is going to help her get pregnant, and she still is unable to conceive a child. And this jealousy and this anger and this envy, you just know it's coming out. You just can tell if you read through Genesis 30, we're not reading the whole thing because it's, 40 verses and it would take all night. Not actually. But you can see over and over this pattern of jealousy. And I think we all know, so Jacob's son Joseph, you guys remember what happened to Joseph? What his brothers did to him? He got sold into slavery. This exact same case, one generation below these two sister wives, which I don't really want to say that, but that's what they are. Right below them, their children have this exact same type of tension and fighting and envy that they end up wanting to murder one of their brothers and end up selling him into slavery because they cower out about it, which is a good thing in the end. And we see this pattern of jealousy and envy creeping in with this family over and over and over. And among Christians, we get this exact same mindset that creeps in a lot of different facets, in a lot of different ways in our lives. And one of the biggest ways that I want to talk about is when we see other people become successful. Whether that's in ministry, whether that's in family, whether that's in business, in careers, in finances. We get this bit of jealousy and envy that stirs up inside of us. And for young people, us, that is a problem. And it can be things that I named off earlier. It can be when somebody has that newer car than you. It can be when somebody has a house before you. It can be when somebody makes more money than you do. It can be when somebody has more followers than you do, whether that's social media or physically in person, they're more popular than you. And we see that jealousy creeps in. And one of the biggest things that we need to do in this situation, and we're going to come back to this, is celebrate other people's successes. We need to go out of our way to celebrate when other people in an aspect, in a regard, do better than we do, quote unquote. And I want to read James 3, verse 14 through 16. It says, "But if you have bitter jealousy and selfish ambition in your heart, do not be arrogant and so lie against the truth. This wisdom is not that which comes down from above, but is earthly, natural, and demonic. For when jealousy and selfish ambition exist, there is disorder and every evil thing." Jealousy destroys community and the church. Because like I mentioned earlier, it just weasels its way into every conversation, every relationship, every interaction. Because you don't see people as brothers and sisters in Christ, you start to see them as competition. And I want to read, I lost my place. I want to read 2 Corinthians 11, verse 2 through 3. It's, "For I am jealous for you with a godly jealousy. For I betrothed you to one husband, so that to Christ I may present you as a pure virgin. But I am afraid that as the serpent deceived Eve by his craftiness, your minds will be led astray from the simplicity and purity of devotion to Christ." I want to make this distinction, just for argument's sake or whatever, of the two different types of jealousy that we can see. Because there is a righteous type of jealousy, and there is a sinful type of jealousy. So righteous jealousy, we're only going to spend a second on this, pretty much has like 3 instances that I can think of in my mind. There is the jealousy of God for our attention and worship. That God has the right to all of our attention, all of our worship, all of our commitment, everything. And so when we turn from that, like Paul is talking about right here with the Corinthians, when we turn to other things, God has the right to be jealous because that is his. It belongs to him. And the same can be true for us, that when we look at a married couple, if one of the spouses is like cheating or subtly cheating, there's a jealousy there that is righteous, that is wrong, that is something being taken from you that does belong to you. And there are a lot of caveats in this. So if you have like specific questions, I really want to encourage you, come talk to somebody, myself, David, one of the other home pastors, whatever. But those are the few instances that we have righteous jealousy. But what we have most of the time is this sinful jealousy that I'm actually talking about. This sinful jealousy of, I want something that doesn't belong to me. It's not mine. I didn't earn it. I didn't make it. I didn't create it, but I want it because I deserve it. I'm so great. I'm so good. I can't remember which podcast I was listening to, but they were talking about this idea of how like socialism, communism is crazy popular right now. And it's this big movement in our culture and has been for a little while. And all of that stems from the same idea of you have something that I don't, and I deserve to have that with you. I deserve to take that from you because I don't have it. And we get that same attitude because, A, that's the culture we live in, is you're out to get whatever you can, and whoever's in your way, they better move out of the way. And so when we have this attitude, it destroys things. And throughout the Bible, we see story after story after story of jealousy coming into situations and ruining things. We have Solomon and David. We have Cain and Abel at the very beginning, Cain getting jealous. We have Rachel and Leah, like I talked about. We have Joseph and his brothers. And I want to encourage you guys, go study these stories if you don't know them off the top of your head. I named these because they're super easy to go read real quick, a couple chapters at most, and you can see how jealousy plays out. But what I want to do is flip to Luke 15. So if you're there, it should be right where your bookmark is, because all of us are on Luke chapter 9 right now. We read 9 today. We're on chapter 10, so just a couple chapters later if you're in the New Testament reading thing. But Luke chapter 15 says, now his older son was in the field. Sorry, I meant to caveat this, or preface this. This is the story of the prodigal son. So this is the story where the one son goes away or tells his dad, you're dead to me, give me my birthright, and then goes out and squanders it, gets poor, comes back and celebrates giant feast. You guys know the story I'm talking about? Tracking with me? So we're picking up right after the second brother, or right where the second brother comes back. So in verse 25, it says, now his older son was in the field, and when he came and approached the house, he heard music and dancing. And he summoned one of the servants and began inquiring what these things could be. And he said to him, your brother has come, and your father has slaughtered the fattened calf, because he has received him back safe and sound. And it says, but he became angry and was not willing to go in. And his father came out and began pleading with him. Immediately we have this jealousy and envy that stirs up from this other brother. That the very first thing he thinks of is, how dare that brother come back and take what's mine? How dare he step in after all he's done, after all that he did to just ruin everything? How can he be here and do that? And if you guys haven't read it, the father's response is excellent because it's representative of God's response. It says, but he answered and said to his father, Yes, that's right. Verse 29. But he answered and said to his father, look, for so many years I have been serving you, and I never neglected a command of yours. And yet you never gave me a young goat, so that I might celebrate with my friends. But when this son of yours came, who has devoured your wealth with prostitutes, you slaughtered the fattened calf for him. And he said to him, son, you have always been with me, and all that is mine is yours. But we had to celebrate and rejoice, because this brother of yours was dead and has begun to live, and was lost and has been found. See, jealousy is born out of our own selfish desires. And it begins when we start to compare ourselves with others. When this brother started to say, look what I have done. I have done what's right. I have done everything for you. Why does he deserve that? And we get that same response when it comes to these things in our lives. When it's a career and your coworker gets a promotion before you, it's, why did he do that? I've worked long hours. I've worked harder. I've seen him skip on this. I've seen him slack in this area. Why didn't I get this? When it's relationships, when it's houses, when it's cars, we start to compare ourselves in these ways, and it drives jealousy to the forefront of our minds. And what I want to talk about is I have these 4 areas that I think in our lives we need to use to combat jealousy in our own minds. And so the very first one that I want to talk about is having a kingdom mindset, being kingdom-minded. Whatever I wrote, kingdom-mindedness. Pick one of those names that you like best and write it down. And this is understanding, and this is what I think is the most important part of this whole idea. So, bear with me. Understanding that we do not live in a zero-sum world. And what I mean by that is that when somebody else succeeds, it doesn't mean we lose. When one of our brothers or sisters in Christ goes and buys a house, it doesn't mean I'm never going to get a house. When they get promoted in the kingdom, when they get promoted in a financial way, when they get anything in relationship get promoted, it doesn't mean I lose. But jealousy causes us to think they have it, so I need to take it from them so I can have it. I need to make them feel horrible that they did this thing before I did. I need to judge them. I need to stop being friends with them. I need to move on and never talk to them again. And we need to have this mindset of what the kingdom actually works like. Because when one of our brothers or sisters in Christ succeeds, that is our success as well. And what I want to talk about is, how many of you guys remember Matt Foreman from last week? I'm going to have to tell him like 3 of you guys remember. He's going to be so sad. So Matt Foreman spoke last week. So Matt is like a year older than me, or the same age as I am, or graduated before me, something. We're right around the same class. And he started as an intern in like September, and I started as an intern 4 months later. I have those months completely wrong, but we started being interns right around the exact same time in the high school ministry. And I remember, and I called Matt to like make sure he's okay with me sharing this, and he even confessed to this with me as well, is that him and I had this subtle competition among each other of this idea that if he wins, I lose, and if I win, he loses. And I know that I can think back to situations where we were interns and he spoke at something that I was like, dude, why didn't I get to speak at that? And it had to be this, why didn't I do this? Why wasn't I the one that got this position? Why wasn't I the one given that authority? And my actual response should have been, that is sweet that the Lord is using Matt in that. And I should go ask him how to do that. I should encourage him. I should push him. I should celebrate alongside him. And today he also told me that he had the exact same thing when I spoke at something. That he had that same thought of, why did Bryce get to do that? Why was he the one that was able to go do that? Why wasn't I the one that could? And I know David and I were talking about this earlier, and he shared that he had that exact same relationship with John Uyoa, the high school pastor. Same deal. They both started around the same time. They both were ambitious. They both were pursuing careers in ministry and all these things. And that exact same situation of, if he gets ahead of me, I'm losing. And I know that for you guys, if you are honest and look at your life, there's somebody that you've had that relationship with. Probably a few people you've had that relationship with. It could be siblings that are staring at each other right now in front of me. It could be just your friends that you're around, friends that you don't have anymore because this caused tension. And it can become incredibly difficult not to have a competitive spirit when it comes to this. Because especially if you're ambitious, if you're pursuing things, it's natural. The truth is, we all have to focus on the kingdom success over our individual success. That if we all had this mindset of you win, I lose, and vice versa, the kingdom is not going to expand. This group right here is not going to expand. This ministry, our church, the church as a whole, you in your own careers, you in family, you in relationships, whatever situation you want to throw it in, it's going to destroy it and hinder the possibilities. My second point is that we need to be celebrating others' successes. Now, this one I think is the most practical to start applying because we don't do this most of the time. We are pretty bad, and I say we because just young people and just people in general are so bad at celebrating others. And I want to challenge you guys that this is the easiest one to start applying because you just verbalize it. You just start saying, Will, I'm stoked you bought a house. You just start saying, I don't know, Thomas, that's great that you got that promotion. Whatever it is. When we start to verbalize these things, it drives and instills in our own mind a level of affection towards others over this level of jealousy that we can. And I want to challenge you guys, when someone around you is successful, when they accomplish something, when it's something big or a life change happens, celebrate with them. Verbalize and fight against those natural thoughts of, I lost because they just got ahead. Those natural thoughts of, why can't I have that? My third point, I'm calling it the grind, is that all of you need to be grinding towards what the Lord has for you in your future. This is another huge area that I see a lot of people in their lives get jealous when other people are accomplishing things because you're not accomplishing things. And I want to challenge you that not everyone has this like exact clear, the Lord's calling you to this career at this company. But every single one of you, the Lord is called to work, to prosper, to produce, to be effective, and to go through open doors that are in front of you. And I really want to challenge you guys that if you're catching yourself in this place of jealousy, that sometimes it stems from you're not working hard enough. You are not spending time to pursue what you're going after because you're caught up in jealousy. You're caught up in this idea that everyone's out to get you. That among our group, what are we? We're Gen Z. That's what we are. One of the common themes is that the world sucks and I'm never going to get anything. And it's something that causes people to get in this place where you end up doing nothing. You end up accomplishing nothing. You end up never working. You end up never pursuing real careers, pursuing real risks and things out there. Because you're stuck thinking that everyone else just has what belongs to you. That they got there easier, that whatever situation led them there, that it should have led you there. I remember there's, right now I run Youth Venture. A couple years ago, I ran the Santee Youth Venture. And a couple years before that, David Matranga ran that same exact youth venture. And one of the things that he did that I thought has like stuck with me is that when I was starting to move into that position, he prayed a prayer over me of, Lord, let my ceiling be Bryce's floor. Let my ceiling be Bryce's floor. And I think that is the kind of humility that all of us need to have in every aspect of life. You know, I also thought about Moses and Joshua. There's the same situation where Moses is called to lead the Israelites out of Egypt through all these crazy situations, get them freedom, and then die in the desert. And then Joshua gets to take the Israelites from the desert and go conquer the promised land and build a civilization. And for us, I know for me, and I think for most of you, one of those is so much cooler. One of those is so much more in our own mindset better than the other one. And for me, I'm saying that's Joshua. That getting to go into the Lord's promise. That if Moses looked at it with that same mindset that I'm bringing up right now, with that same idea, they wouldn't have left Egypt. If Moses sat there and said, Lord, you're not going to let me into the promised land, I'm not doing this. I'm the one that brought us out of Egypt. I'm the one that deserves these things because of all this faithfulness I've given you, because of all this work I've done. But he didn't. He had this idea that, Lord, you've called me to this point, and it is going to set a foundation for somebody else to take so much further, for somebody else to build on and accomplish so much more success for your kingdom. And that's the same exact idea that we need to have in every single aspect of our lives. That I mentioned, I'm going to keep mentioning this zero-sum outcome thing. That in the zero-sum outcome, both of them, zero-sum outcome, one of them would have had to lose. One of them would have had to gain less because of it. But because it's God's kingdom, that's not how it works. That they both get to live in the success of the kingdom. And so I want to challenge you guys to look and celebrate other people's successes. Because this is a huge area that drives us away from jealousy and envy, is when we recognize our portion that we are called to and other people's portion that they are called to. When we recognize that that's not me. I'm not that guy. I'm not the one that's going to accomplish that. But the Lord's going to provide somebody else. And I want to challenge you guys, if you're looking around to other people, if you're looking around and seeing people that are successful in whatever area of life, your response needs to be, that's awesome. That is great. That is fantastic. How do I do that? How do I get there? How do I learn from them? How do I take what they've done and keep running with it? And I want to challenge you guys that is a critical point that will change your success. Is if instead of looking at other people and thinking, they're more lucky than I am, they're better looking than I am, they are more charismatic than I am, instead of thinking those things, thinking, how do I learn from them? And I literally mean, go learn from them. Go ask them. Go ask them, how did you get there? How did you get promoted before I did? What did you do? How did you buy a house so young? How did you buy that car so young? How did you get married so young? How did you have kids so young? How did you get there before I did, and how can I do the same? And this leads me to my last point, and this one is for people on the other end of this. Because every single one of us in this room has success in an area. And we like to pick and choose. We like to decide, I'm going to take this little portion of somebody's life, judge it against mine, and not see everything else. But all of us have success in an area. And my last point for us as a community combating jealousy is enabling others' success. Going out of your way to help other people gain success. And if you look at ministry, I know I can speak for David and I. If you're interested in ministry and you come talk to one of us, we will sit down and talk your ear off all you want. There is no secrets among how to do it successfully. And the same is true for 90% of people that are successful in marriage. I think if you look around this room, are you guys the only married couple in here? Yeah? Other than Lauren's not here. But if you look at any married people in here, you can go ask them, what's it like? How'd you get there? How'd you work to that point? And I want to challenge people that if you have a success in an area, and I'm mentioning like bigger things, but some of you guys are really successful at pool cleaning. Some of you guys are really successful at name your career, name your gifting, name whatever it is. And if you have this attitude of, I need to hold this tight because this is my skill set that I need to be successful in, you are doing nothing but pushing and driving jealousy among community. And so if you are somebody that you recognize, and I think everybody can look around and recognize it, if you recognize that you have these successes, if you have these things that the Lord's blessed you with, you need to share it. And Luke 6, we just read this morning. Who read it this morning with me? Luke 6? Oh, no way. I read that this morning, so I'm a day off. Whatever. I'll catch up. So, Luke 6, verses 39 through 42. It says, Now he, Jesus, also spoke a parable to them. A person who is blind cannot guide another who is blind, can he? Will they not both fall into a pit? A student is not above the teacher, but everyone, when he has been fully trained, this is the part I want to focus on, when he has been fully trained, will be like his teacher. Why do you look at the speck that is in your brother's eye, but do not notice the log that is in your own eye? How can you say to your brother, Brother, let me take out the speck that is in your eye, when you yourself do not see the log that is in your own eye? You hypocrite. First take the log out of your own eye, and then you will see clearly to take the speck out of your brother's eye. So this part that I want to focus on is a student is not above the teacher, but everyone, when he has been fully trained, will be like his teacher. If you have success in an area, you need to be teaching and training people how to be successful in that area. Every single one of us, and you might be thinking, what do I have to teach? You might be thinking, I got nothing. But the truth is, every single one of you in this room has success in an area. Every single one of you is better at a lot of things that I'm not good at. And the same is true for everyone else in this room. And I want to challenge you guys to have this attitude of, I need to be that teacher that will raise up students to be like me. That if you are super savvy in cryptocurrency, anybody in here do crypto? I don't. So, Matt, I didn't know you're still on that kick. So if Matt's great at crypto, he bought a house, so clearly he got in. But I can't believe you, Matt. Anyways, if you're successful at some random thing like that, you need to be willing to share that. That if you see things coming over the horizon that you're like, dude, a lot of people could do this with me. I could get my friends and we could be successful in whatever area this is, whether that's ministry, whether it's family, whether it's a Bible study you start together, whether it's a financial Dogecoin's going to blow up and go to the moon, whatever it is. We need to have this mindset that we can bring others with us. But Matt, you guys want to come up? We need to want others to have success after us. We need to have that mindset that I talked about, the prayer that David did, of my ceiling, the absolute cap of what I'm going to do is going to let somebody else build off of that. We need to be those people that are willing to share that, the people that are like Moses that will say, Lord, you've only called me so far. Let me get things ready for Joshua to run with it. Let me prepare the way for him to go ahead. Because Moses could have just been envious. He could have just been jealous. He could have just been stuck in the fact that Joshua was going to do something cooler than him. And that would have completely changed the outcome of it. Because the truth is, he wasn't enough to do it on his own. And not a single one of us in this room are good enough to do it on our own. Because we need the Lord. And if you're going to be successful, you need the Lord in it. Whether it's business, family, anything else. You need the Lord in it. And you need a community around you that is celebrating your success and driving you to be successful. Not people that are seeing somebody else buy a house and then it's this tension in the relationship that I don't know if I want to be friends with you anymore because this is awkward. Because I want that house. I wanted that car. I wanted that job. I wanted that relationship. Because combating jealousy is a job for every single person that is part of the body. And if you're in this room, you're saying you're part of the body of this church, of at least young adults. And every single one of us needs to be driving each other to success. Needs to be understanding that when somebody else wins, I win alongside them. I get to celebrate with them because that means the kingdom has that much more influence. The kingdom has that much more money in it. The kingdom has that many more houses for a random small group to meet at. We need to have the kingdom mindset when it comes to all of these things in life.